Welcome back to the Bleeding LFC Red channel for what seemed like the longest transfer window in history, and with the Alexander Isak situation threatening to become one of the largest transfer sagas in history. So, where were we? Multiple reports have suggested that Isak wants to play for Liverpool, and Liverpool are interested in Isak. Liverpool reportedly bid 110 million for the striker, and that was immediately turned down by Newcastle, who suggested that without replacements and for that money, a deal was not ready to be done. So what's happened is Liverpool have kind of backed off and said that they would only return to the negotiating table if they receive encouragement from Newcastle. So nothing had really changed from that position. Newcastle still needing to get replacements. They were beaten to Benjamin Sesko by Manchester United. Johan Wissa, they seem to have put in a new bid today. So until that got resolved, no one was expecting anything more to happen. Then last night, Alexander Isak took to Instagram to give his version of events. It's the first time that he's had his say on the situation. And basically, his point was that he'd been made certain promises by the club that hadn't been followed through, and as a result, the trust between the parties had broken, and it was best for all concerned if he was allowed to move on. Newcastle then responded with a statement of their own, where they said that any conditions for the sale of Alexander Isak had not been met, and they do not expect them to be. They also claim that no promise was ever made with respect to Isak leaving the club, but that he would be welcomed back as he remains under contract at St James's Park. Many seem to be thinking that that means that a deal is dead. Personally, I'm not so sure on that. I don't think there's anything in the Newcastle statement that suggests that he is not for sale. Just that the conditions have not been met, which would lead to a sale. I understand why Newcastle fans feel aggrieved by the situation. We've been there ourselves with the likes of Felipe Coutinho. So at the moment, this isn't good for anybody. So obviously for Isak, it's not good. For Newcastle and their supporters, it's not good. And for Liverpool, which is where my primary concern is, there is a problem as there remain gaps in their attack. So with Mohamed Salah, Hugo Ekitike, Cody Gakpo, and it looking like Federico Chiesa is staying, Liverpool are probably still one or two players short in that attacking area. Could be argued that Rio and Gamoa could be the sixth option and someone that's used in domestic cup matches and off the bench, but it does look like Liverpool are a player short. The difficulty, therefore, is are they going to stay in the mix for Isak? And that could change any minute, and Liverpool might pivot to alternative targets. But in the past, that hasn't been Liverpool's style. When they are set on a player, as we've seen with Virgil van Dijk, they will sit in and wait for that player to arrive. So I think a deal is still possible in this transfer window. I think it still depends on Newcastle being able to find suitable replacements. And I think Liverpool, will stump up the cash needed to take him to Anfield. Obviously, the deeper this goes into the window, and it will close in just over 11 days' time, the more jeopardy is involved in Liverpool putting all their eggs in one basket for Isak. So I would like to see a plan B emerge. And if they are going to stick and wait it out for Isak, whether that's in January or whether it's during next summer's transfer window, it does feel like an alternative strategy needs to be adopted and an additional player brought in. And ideally, someone that's a versatile forward that can play on the wings and centrally. Because at the moment, I think after the loss of Diogo Jota, the sales of Darwin Núñez and Luis Diaz, we do look extremely light in attack. So no doubt this is going to rumble on, and it'll be interesting to see how it develops over the coming days.